Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It's Friday night, and today we are discussing on depression. How are you? How has your week been? And I hope that you will be having a great weekend. If you woke up today, then today is a great day. All right. Today's topic is on depression. How do you handle it? What is it that you do? What do you go through when you are undergoing some form of depression? That's what we're going to be discussing today. Depression is a mental health disorder characterized by persistent feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and a lack of interest or pleasure in activities. It can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, or even background. Depression can also manifest in physical symptoms such as changes in appetite or sleep, and that's sleep patterns, fatigue, and difficulty with concentration. It's important to note that depression is a complex condition and its causes can vary from person to person. Factors such as genetics, brain chemistry, traumatic life events, and certain medical conditions all can contribute to the development of depression. Treatment for depression often involves a combination of therapy and medication. Cognitive behavioral therapy and other forms of psychotherapy are commonly used to help individuals identify and change negative thought patterns, and not just negative thought patterns, but also behavior types. Antidepressant medications can also be used and prescribed to help regulate brain chemistry and alleviate symptoms. If you or someone you know is experiencing symptoms of depression, it's crucial to seek professional help. Mental health professionals such as therapists and psychiatrists, they can provide the necessary support and guidance to navigate through the challenging periods that we may be experiencing. You don't have to face depression alone, and there is hope for recovery. And that is what we are discussing today. First, let's bring in our first guest, who is the co host of the Esteban Hours Week in Review, Mr. Jeremy Baker. Hey, Jeremy.
Hello.
Welcome.
I think
Welcome.
you tricked me into coming on today because I know I've talked to you about depression before, and then
Yes.
I
Well,
was like,
you are, this is your first time as a guest on the
"Yeah, this is
our
exciting. I get
podcast,
to
isn't it?
share my innermost thoughts online. I can't wait to see what happens there."
Well, I'm excited.
Nothing. What could go wrong? I mean, really.
Well, yeah. Okay. But I'm excited that you are here and part of this show because yes, we have spoken in the past, back and forth. You and I, we've shared different stories and experiences with what when we personally have faced with our own struggles with depression, right?
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
shared some of those. So I thought it was only fitting, since you're part of the Esteban Hour family, to come on and show, express your experiences dealing with depression in your past with our audience.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think, you know what I mean. When I texted you earlier, people out there might think some of the things I say are crazy, but I'm not trying to appeal to those people. I'm trying to appeal to the people that think I make sense. You know what I mean? Because there's a
I
lot of
hear
people
you.
out there that I've realized there's a lot of people out there because I know when there was help, when I needed help, I was fortunate enough to have enough help around to make it through it. But a lot of people don't get the help they need, and
Right.
mental health is an issue in this country that is
Absolutely.
it's going almost unchecked for the most part because
Absolutely.
mental health problems are increasing while services are either just staying the same or being
Mhm.
even they're even harder to get access to. But
And that's what this show is about, right? It's about bringing awareness to the title of depression. um,
Mhm.
many Americans, I want to say millions of Americans, suffer with some form or type of depression, but either they don't know it, or they hide it, right? They keep it within closed doors, behind the scenes, and they're not, forthcoming with their depressionary bouts. But this show, we want to make it known to everyone that it is okay to talk about depression. It is okay to say you're depressed or you were depressed, right? It's okay to share your stories, your situations of what you're going through and how they're making you feel. Because, like you said, not everybody has someone to talk to, and on this show, they do. They do. So, tell us. Let's start with you. Tell us what has what's
Um,
your examples of dealing with depression in your past.
it's been it's been very difficult. My journey with depression. I don't think I was depressed as a kid. I remember having a very happy childhood.
Well, good for you.
As a kid. Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not, I may seem like very happy go lucky on the show and stuff like that, but I have a lot of inner turmoil that I deal with even today. You know what I mean? I think I'll have problems with depression, and I'm actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Um,
Oh, really?
which actually didn't happen until later in life. Like at the beginning, I don't really remember being having problems with depression until like I went into the military, and I went in for special forces. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, it was pararescue in the military and the Air Force. Basically a combat medic, special forces. That's all I wanted to do. My father was a career military man with an exemplary record, and I wanted to live up to that and carry on that legacy because we've also had family members before in the military.
Right.
Excuse me. And I failed out of training. I could not handle the water training was the worst. Like I used to be a very good runner in high school. I mean, I would run the mile in under 5 minutes. We went to states. I was very good athletic, even for a 5'8" guy. I had very fast legs. So after I failed that, I didn't know what to do with my life. I had no clue what direction I wanted to go because that was the only direction I thought of. I never thought that I'm going to fail. I always thought that I'm going to make it. I'm going to make my father proud. I'm going to do amazing things, save lives, have one of those lives that has just amazing stories to tell your grandchildren to. And I didn't have that. And then after that, I remember starting having problems. And it was when you first start feeling depressed, I mean, like you said, you don't really, I don't think you really, I mean, it's hard to recognize what you feel. Even when you're not depressed, it's hard to recognize what emotions you're
Yeah.
feeling. So to feel overwhelmed by sadness, the way I guess the best way to describe, for me to describe to other people what being depressed and being bipolar is like, is you could be in a room full of people and be the center of attention and be the life of the party, but you can also be in the same room of same people and feel completely alone.
Yeah.
That's kind of what depression is, you know what I mean? And bipolar disorder is like. And it took years. And then I fell into the whole opioid addiction when I got addicted to painkillers, which, of course, that starts messing with your brain chemistry like you wouldn't believe.
And
And
before you
then,
go any further, I just want to
yeah,
mention you can be the most popular person in the world. You can have, hundreds of friends. You can have a great, supportive family members and still be depressed, can't you?
yeah, it's hard to describe. I mean, there's days to even now, you know what I mean? But through medication, I've discovered that talking is my best form of,
A lot of
I mean,
people.
therapy. But talking is literally the best because I feel like thoughts are toxic. If you keep a thought inside, you can't cure your own depression, no matter how hard you try. You know what I mean? It's always just kind of going to be there. I appreciate that. Um, so I think like thoughts in your mind, if you keep them in your mind, if you're sick and you keep those sick thoughts in your mind, they become toxic, almost like it destroys part of your soul. But once you get that thought out to somebody that cares and can give you suggestions and and provide help or even medication to help with, because I think medication is important if it's used properly and prescribed properly. It's a whole another story.
Right.
Um, that you can overcome and maintain it. But even today, I struggle with it, and without medication, without talking about it, um, that I don't know where I would be. And I have my mother's my rock. I mean, my father passed away. God, it's been almost 12 years now, and he was my hero. And I really down spiraled after he died. That was really when I went all the way down to rock bottom. And then when I hit rock bottom, I broke through rock bottom, found a whole new rock bottom, and I kept doing that over and over again until I almost died. A couple times I almost died. A couple times from overdoses, and a couple at one time I actually almost died from a allergic reaction to a prescription medication that was given to me for depression. It was something new. They wanted to add it on to what I was currently taking because I wasn't feeling like I was still feeling depressed with the medication I was on. Because that a lot of times what the doctors do is they'll either add one or
Right.
change it, or they'll add another medication. All well, I took one pill and it gave me something called serotonin syndrome, which basically is it's lethal. I mean, your brain just literally floods with serotonin, and I ended up in the ICU. I woke up 5 days later, had no
Wow.
clue what happened. They
Wow.
said I was violent, like I was freaking out. I was pulling out my IVs and blood was it was
Wow.
awful. So the medication can be a double-edged sword because there are side effects, and you won't know the side effects until obviously you take the medication. And
Right.
some medications are proven safer than others. And some medications I feel they just push through the market because they know it's going to make a lot of money.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's reality in America. That's why
So how did
why
you
when I
handle it? How did you get to the point of where you are today?
a lot of hard work, a lot of learning how to recognize. I think recognizing what emotion I'm feeling was crucial because I would be angry and I wouldn't realize I'm angry. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was feeling. Like I think recognizing the emotions and recognizing that you can't cure your own depression, I think is probably the biggest thing. Just get help. Even if you feel a little bit sad, just go talk to somebody.
And I was just gonna
But
I was just gonna say that. Talk to someone. Talk
yeah,
to someone, anyone.
and there are more options out there now than there used to be. Like there's telehealth. Thanks to COVID and the burst in cases of depression over the last couple of years, because I think people really understand now what depression is, because a lot of people that never were depressed their whole lives, when they were locked down under COVID, first experienced what it's like.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
that's kind of why it's
In
becoming
in
a little bit more
in
talked about.
fact, the funny
I
thing
mean, it's
about it
true.
at that time was, a lot of the people that you've always known to be, not perfect people, but well-established folks. They've got the right head on their shoulders. They're the type of people that you go to for, support, help, or to talk to. Those people kind of like shut down during the pandemic, right? They were the almost the first ones that could not handle um um being quote unquote locked up into their houses and couldn't go anywhere. And
See,
I
being
thought that
locked
that
up.
was that was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, being locked up physically like that gets pretty much an example of what it's like to be locked up mentally too. You know what I mean? You can't go anywhere in your mind. You're just stuck.
Yeah,
You're stuck. You don't know what to do. You can't go
yeah.
forward. You can't go backwards. You're just stuck.
Here's a comment from Gail. She says that depression makes you feel like locking yourself away in a room so you don't have to feel anything. And that's true, right? That's sort of what you said. And many people do that. And on the outside, no one knows that they're locking themselves in their room, right? They only know what they see when they come out of their room. And in a lot of instances, when they come out of their room, they don't share that they just lock themselves in their room because they're struggling with some form of depression.
Yeah. I think it was a combination of staying off drugs. Obviously, that was probably the first and foremost, most important thing to do, getting help, and, just
Good.
rediscovering because struggles can create strength. I always say that struggles create
Yes.
strength if
Yes.
you endure the struggles. You know what I mean? If you
Yes.
don't give yourself a chance, like I know, because bad times are just they're bad. You know, I mean, good times are great, but bad times are just awful.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I like how you just mentioned that, you learn from your trials and your tribulations. Those are what make you stronger, correct?
absolutely. I think perseverance is a good word to use. Because I don't think you ever understand the concept of perseverance if you've never struggled. Um,
Right.
Truly struggled, you know what I mean? Mentally perseverance. I'm not talking
Right.
about financial or whatever.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. I'm looking for. I had recently posted a clip that had to do with this topic. If I can find it quick enough, and then I'll show it. Okay. In the meantime, at this point, thank you, Jeremy, for
Yes.
sharing that. That was very important. I hope you were able to exhale, get
See,
that
it
off
feels
your
good
chest.
just to talk like right now with you and me. Like I know we're online and I know we're live, but right now I'm just having a conversation with you, and having a conversation with you about the things that I go through makes me feel better. So hopefully that in
Excellent.
turn helps somebody else, make somebody else feel better at the same time. I don't
Excellent.
know.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So why don't we, at this moment, we have joining us on the show is one of my childhood friends from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
Um, yeah, he is a licensed health service psychotherapist. He practiced health service psychology in multiple settings: community health, acute psychiatric and substance abuse residential care, and K through 12 school. His professional training is in both counseling, psychology, and school psychology. He's awesome. He's absolutely awesome. Um, his professional work in research was featured with colleagues of the 2015 Midwestern Psychological Association Annual Conference, and the 2016 National Career Development Association Annual Conference, and many, many more. I mean, he's great and effective in what he does. I listen to him all the time, and I am honored to bring him in on the show. Please help me welcome to the show my friend and guest, Mr. Donovan Richardson.
Well, good evening,
Hey
Esther
there.
and Jeremy. I appreciate the opportunity just to be here.
Thank
Um,
you for joining us.
this is a
Thank you.
very personal thing for me, and also my profession. So I just wanted to just kind of put that on out there because one of the things that we grew up with, we don't think about the humanity of where we are. Especially when we're growing up, we're learning about different things. We're learning about like, oh, we need to be this, or I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be this. We don't necessarily think about when we don't accomplish those things. And Jeremy, you kind of shared that in your story, and that was very, very touching to me. So I just wanted to just thank you for enlightening us all with your experience, and I think that's really how we continue in the society to be able to support each other. So that's why I do this work. And outside of this work, I'm a person too. So we all have those moments. So I just wanted to kind of just chime in and let y'all know that too.
That's right. That's right. Thank you
Nice.
for stating that because it's true. So you have a co-host of a show and you have a psychotherapist professional on the show, and you have me. I have 1,000 different titles. We all of us have uh, struggled with some form or bout of depression. It could be extreme, it could be minimum, but everyone. So my point to you guys out there is to say, if you're struggling with depression or if you have struggled with depression, you're not alone. And it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a nurse, a doctor, a firefighter, a lawyer, a teacher, a student. It's okay if you struggle or if you have had some form of depression. Donovan, tell me, in your profession, in your office, how frequently do you see young people come in and out that are struggling with some form of depression?
Well, that's kind of a that's a difficult question because honestly, it's a human experience. When we feel even the most utmost threat, and I always say depression has a freaking frack like friend anxiety. So when we have anxious moments, um, and it could be just because of a threat. It could be whether you are trying to like survive high school or surviving like going to the army experience that you explained, Jeremy. I mean, any kind of a situation where you're like threatened and you're not able to accomplish it, that can lead this conversation to, okay, are you okay? Or how are you feeling? A lot of people just like to say, okay, I'm good, I'm
Right,
fine.
right.
Um, but when I work in and I work in several settings, so I actually work in an inpatient hospital, like for psychiatric care where people are in like units, and I work in substance use residential places, and then I work in community health places. I also work as a mental health professional in schools. So everyone sometimes that I encounter, if they're even in schools, just in general school settings, university settings, has experienced some form of what we associate with depression. So to answer that, it's more of like it can happen to any of us at any time. I mean,
That's right.
situations, it's a situational thing sometimes. And then some people have a little bit more what we call more that persistent, ongoing things where they learn how to push through life,
Right.
experiencing depression. And, like I think you mentioned people about that face that they put on, like they seem to be good, and then all of a sudden something happened, like COVID, and a lot of people are coming out saying, "Oh yes, I experienced this," but a lot of people may have experienced more or less forms of it, just knowing how to put on a good face.
Yeah.
And our society kind of teaches us to do that too. So to answer that question, I guess it's more of, I hear it all the time. Depression is a very, very common. Um,
Very true. Very true. And Jeremy, who was
Mhm.
that actor that recently died that we spoke about on one of our shows? From that, I think it's an HBO show.
You're gonna freak me out because I was just thinking about the show earlier. Is Angus Cloud from Euphoria,
Yes, yes,
which
25 years
that,
old.
by the way, is a very good representation. I know it's a show, but they talk about depression and suicide and anxiety, medication, stuff like that. It's a
Hmm.
very visual, graphic depiction of what it's like for some people.
That's right.
Yeah, Angus Cloud was the guy's name.
And so looking at him, Donovan just mentioned that depression can hit anybody. So now look at him. This dude was a popular actor and a well-known actor. Everyone loved him on that show, right?
Hmm.
And he did a great job on that show. And still, that wasn't enough for him to feel like he was worthy, that he was worth something. And because of that, he fell into a form of depression and took his life over it. His father
No,
had
it
died
wasn't. It wasn't a suicide, but he did
24.
overdose.
Yeah, he overdosed, which you know, i- it's a form of
Yeah,
suicide.
I'm just
I'm
well.
assuming on his death certificate, it's not gonna, you know.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
And we know that a week or so before he passed, his father had passed.
Hmm.
And according to reports, he wasn't taking it too well, and it was a hard time for him. So the point being is that we all go through things like that, right? We all go deal with death, or have had a loved one
Hmm.
that has left us and has brought us to a point of depression where we don't know what we're going to do, and at that moment
Hmm.
we're thinking we don't know what we're going to do, we don't know what we're going to how is life going to go on, but we're here to say that life does go on, does it not?
It does. It's just hard to see that when you're wrapped up in, when you have that cloud over your head that follows you everywhere you go. It's hard to see it. But once, I guarantee, though, this is what I'll say, because I feel like I've got my depression under control for the most part through, medication and talking about it and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, the one thing I've realized though is like it's so worth it if you get it figured out. It's such a hard journey. It's such a hard journey, but it's so worth it once you wake up one day and you're like, oh my God, I know who I am. I know how I feel. I know what to do if this happens to me. I know what to do. You know what I mean? You start
Right.
putting plans in place for triggers and things that happen to you. And it's so worth it if you're able to make it out the other side. Unfortunately, though, a lot of people don't. And that's what I hope to change, getting people to talk about it openly. You know what I mean? Like I tell you all the time, I honestly think I'm crazy. I think I'm crazy, but I think the stuff I say is crazy. But it's just it's so hard to talk about. But I think it's necessary. Like we talk about a lot of stuff on the show. Some of the stuff's uncomfortable, but it's necessary to talk about.
Donovan, do you feel in your experience, many of your patients and clients that you've come across or you've worked with, do you feel that they feel the same way, that it's damn near difficult to get over what they're getting over? Do you feel that them sitting in front of you, that they're feeling that that's not going to help, that's not going to do anything, I'm wasting my time?
I mean, yeah, I mean, to be a part of the process is scary. I'm gonna be very honest. Because sometimes you're confronting things that you have learned to like put away.
Right.
That's like a natural thing that we do. We call that a compartmentalization. We kind of put it in a box and act like that box doesn't exist,
Right.
and we're able to function on our daily lives. And then what happens is when you're sitting in front of a professional, whether it's a psychotherapist like myself and my colleagues, or a psychiatrist, we have licensed clinical social workers, people who are mental health professionals, even outside of the professional realm, like healthcare, we have like even pastors and other people in clergy who are certified in like counseling services. When you're there to confront it, it's difficult. Um, and the one thing that Jeremy said was like really understanding finding a balance. And we think balance means 50-50 in this world. Like that.
That's right.
In math classes, we thought, oh yeah, half and half is good. And it's not necessarily a true balance. And the type of interventions that I provide people are in what's called the cognitive therapy world. So I work under thinking about CBT, like if you mentioned that earlier. So it's really very situational. And then we think about the thoughts, we think about the behaviors, and we have to really identify the emotions. So thoughts are things that we're like, oh yeah, we got thoughts all the time. Behaviors, oh, we know how to act. We know how to put it on, put it off. The emotions are really the biggest thing. And I run into people that come from cultures of anger is like what you use. And honestly, that's my culture. I grew up in an urban environment. We put on that bravado, like, oh, you ain't gonna mess with me. And there's underlying things. And I teach people a lot about the anger iceberg. So like there's an iceberg. There's this big iceberg, and you only see the tip, which is usually anger. But underneath, there's a lot of things. But it's like the opposite that we learn to show that anger, but not show vulnerability or disappointment or shame or guilt.
Okay.
So we mask it using anger. And then that can be also challenging and get people into situations where they're using anger as a coping skill or aggressive behaviors. And it may immediately take care of what you think is your threat, but long term it turns into other things. And substance use also is another one of those instant gratifiers. Let me smoke it away. I don't feel anything right now that's difficult, but then once that high goes away, you're kind of in your situation, and it doesn't really help you solve the problems that you're experiencing.
Because I know my time is up, but I just want to say before I go, I think especially, and I'll say this especially for men, we've been taught, like you said about the bravado, we've been taught since the beginning of time that we're supposed to be this tough. And then when we share emotions, we're seen as weak. That's so inaccurate, I think. I think men that are able to recognize and able to communicate their emotions, those are the men that you want to watch out for. Those are the men that they're the good ones. You know what I mean? The ones that keep everything inside. Like you said, they build that iceberg, and on the outer layer of that iceberg, it's all anger. Because they've been building up all these emotions inside. They don't know how to express themselves.
Right, that's right, and that's why you have a lot of men who are who are into domestic violence, and who don't, who don't treat their children right, and other instances, because they have so much built up inside of them that it affects the way that they lead their lives. I am fortunate enough to have been raised by my mom, who taught me that crying is okay. Emotion and sensitivity is okay. In fact, what gets me angry is when someone tells me not to cry, is when someone tells me not to be emotion, be a man. That's not masculine. Be masculine. That's that gets me angry. Because no one should be able to dictate to me or to anyone else how I should feel, or how I should let my feelings out. Okay, and then growing up again, I thank my mother for instilling that with me, because I have two daughters, and it allowed me to be more emotionally stable with my daughters and understand their feelings, in a parental and feminine type of way, to be able to sit there and say, come here, baby, what's on your mind, talk to daddy. Okay, no matter what it is. And many a times it was, girly things, the menstrual period, and dressing and makeup and all that. A man doesn't necessarily want to hear all of that, but I thank my mom for giving me, for teaching me that it is okay as a man to hear that and to describe yourself in an emotional way. And I think we'd have a better country if more men were like that. That's kind of like why they say, if you want to say something, say it to a man. If you want something done, say it to a woman, because the women are always more sensitive and understanding in their feelings. Empathetic is actually what I'm looking for. All right.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say thanks for having me on for tonight's episode. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy is going to be making his way out. He's got another engagement to do. So thank you, Jeremy. We will see you on the next week in review.
You know you'll be seeing me again. Don't worry about that. Don't fret.
All
I will
right.
be back.
Have a great weekend. He's a great guy. He's an absolute great guy. So in continuing the story, Donovan, do you like what you do?
It is the beauty of having life experiences. This was not my first chosen career. It was a career I thought I wanted to do when I first like got like to college, and I don't know if you remember, like I was at college and I stopped going to college and I couldn't really figure it out. Like I wanted to actually go to school for law, and I was in school for law for like my first semester, couldn't figure it out. But I also had a lot of childhood trauma stuff going on. And I went into a career for over 20 years that was not related to health service psychology, that was not mental health based at all. It was I was working in financial services for a long time. And then when I started to actually deal with my own situations, dealing with my own depression situations going on, entering psychotherapy myself, and found out that once I worked through my stuff, that it was actually something that was kind of deep seated inside. I wanted to be like a child, adolescent, like psychologist at one
Right.
point. And now I find myself in a situation where now I've been able to work through a lot of things personally. So now as a professional now in the field, like I'm like, oh wow, I also find value sometimes in sharing that story if that's going to help someone continue in the journey. You mentioned this thing about empathy, and that's one thing that's very important to recognize. Many people in this world feel alone.
Yeah.
And really, the goal of empathy is not necessarily for me to really get your situation, but just to be there with you. So, do I like what I do? Yes. I work in very vulnerable situations with many people. Like, I've worked and still work with people that are in what we call psychosis, so depression, symptoms at times, depending on the level of depression, can lead to a dissociation situation going on called psychosis. I have seen people severely in that state working in psychiatric hospitals, and that's where I work in that type of setting as well as in others. Um, it does take some form of like, yeah, desire to just be there for people. It's also the reason I wanted to be present here, because even though I'm not practicing here, that's not what I can do in this space. Of course, it's more just talking, and we talking as friends, but I'm also a professional in this too. But it's also really what my commitment to the world is, and in this path, I wasn't really initially thinking was my path until I started really understanding that, sometimes people are put in the world to take on things, and growing up, I didn't know people like me. Like, we didn't know about therapy. I don't know about you, Bubba. Was you in therapy? Because I know I wasn't in therapy.
Um, was I in therapy? I was, but not
Oh,
consistent. But every once in a
oh,
while, when I felt like I had something on my mind and I just needed to talk to somebody, I would go and enlist a therapist. Yes, because
when you were
in
younger, when you
my,
were
when I
like in
was
your
younger,
younger years too, that is
yeah,
cool.
because in my life, even in even in my childhood, I always
Mhm.
had a million and one friends. Always, there was
Yeah.
always an entourage behind
Yes.
me everywhere I go. You remember that?
Oh yes, I do.
And
Yes.
but I never felt that I was capable of sharing anything with my entourage, with my friends. My friends never knew what was on my mind or in my heart at that moment. I was one of those that was very good in hiding it. But I
Oh
also
yeah. I
knew
just found out right now, how long we known each other. I didn't even know that you used therapy before. Like,
we've
like,
known each other for over
who
20
knew?
years.
Yeah, right.
Yes, yes. And so, but I knew the importance of therapy. I did. And I knew that it was always healthy to talk to someone. And if you did not have someone within your own circle or your family to talk to, then a therapist or a psychiatrist was the next best thing. And I wasn't afraid to enlist one at all. At all. Okay. So with that said, we have another guest coming up here, and this young man, he is, I believe, he's 25 years old. He's from Orlando, Florida. He recently celebrated his 1 year anniversary for being what he calls depression free. Now, you're not always depression free, but excuse me, if you feel that way, that's all that matters. If you feel that you have conquered, um, and you have arranged a different method or style going forward on how to work with your depression, whether that's within yourself or speaking with a therapist or a psychiatrist, that's all that matters. That you do something about it and do something constructive and wholesome and legal about it. So at this moment, let's bring in this young man. His name is Galliano, and again, he is from Orlando, Florida. Hey, Galliano.
Yeah, it's Devon. Hey, Devon. Donovan. Yeah. Sorry.
How you doing?
I'm
Welcome to
doing
the
great.
show, or I should say, welcome back to the show because you were interviewed a couple of months ago, right? If you remember.
Yes.
All right, all right. How's your week going? Let's start there.
Right now, my week is going great. Focusing on my life, everything. Not focusing on the past, focusing on what I'm doing on me. Everything is perfect.
Okay. All right. All right. I love to hear positivity coming from you because I know what you've been through and what you go through on a daily basis at home with your family and what you've been through in the past. So I love when I hear you speak nothing but positivity. And I only hope and wish that you continue to do that. So, we had a discussion yesterday, you and I, and you were relating to me some things that you recently were going through. at the moment. Why don't you share that with Mr. Richardson and the audience?
Yeah, last night I wasn't able to eat or drink because someone pressured me to someone tried to force me to go to my high school reunion that I do not want to go to because it gives me nightmares because of what happened to me in the past. The past wasn't pleasant, it was embarrassing and not good, and I had to talk to you about it because I don't have no one else to talk to because I don't like people questioning me. When I say no, no means no. You got to respect that. If you don't respect that, I
That's
have to
right.
cut you off because I have PTSD, but I managed to keep it steady. Like I'm not trying to like go to the dark side because my life depends on myself. Well, it depends on me. Like focus on my future, not focus on what these people are about to do. If you don't respect my situation, you gotta back off. Like you gotta back away.
That's right. Donovan?
All right. Well, first, well, Galiano, I just really want to thank you for, just sharing, your experiences with people. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think is going to be very important, in reference to the work that you're going to continue to do for yourself. I do want to just kind of put a quick disclosure out that we are not in like psychotherapy or anything like that. But I'm just giving you what a person would give another person that just happened to do this as a profession as well. And it sounds like you were able to set up what we call like really setting healthy boundaries on a situation that wasn't going to be helpful for you.
Right.
Um, and we all can have those struggles, myself included, right? I mean, even I want to tell people about, oh, you should be able to do this, or you should do this, you should do that. And in my world of like friendships and my families, I can give my advice. When I'm in the professional realm, I have to be able to understand the value of that and looking at that. But at the same time, social support is something that really is something I want to put out there as a really helpful coping skill to build. So you were able to talk to Esteban, about your situation and just kind of work through it. And that's one of the things like that I love about psychotherapy is because that's that talk therapy. We find ourselves when we talk through something, we're able to really kind of just get our mind focused on it, getting it out, like Jeremy was even saying before earlier in the show. And that's why psychotherapy is a form of dealing with these situations. But back to your matter at hand, with this situation being trying to be put into a situation that you didn't feel comfortable with, knowing that you are also working on yourself and you have your future really to think about. It's also knowing the triggers. So if a trigger moment happens, really, how do you handle it? How do we make choices? Choosing a path of, okay, well, something maybe instant gratification. That's why anger, aggression could come. You go cut somebody out, you go punch them in the face, or you go grab a substance. Oh, let me smoke this, let me snort that. Um, those are what people use as coping, but they're not really the healthier ways to do it. So, what we want to do is look at healthy coping strategies like social supports, basic, taking care of your body needs, eating. You ever heard of hangry before? You
Yeah,
ever heard of that?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. So, like understanding that your body needs what it needs, your sleep, your overall just well being is really important. Um, we call that mindfulness in my field of care. And because you mentioned that you do have a mental health, condition, you mentioned PTSD. Um, if that is a condition that is managed usually with a professional, so um, also part of your healthy coping skills would be, using your professional support team. Whatever health professional is able to doing that, they're able to do that. I mean, we have psychiatric nurses that support people. We have psychiatrists. We have counselors. We have all different kinds of individuals that have the capacity to help you, as well in that realm. And then you also have that support within yourself. And the type of therapy I practice is what we call collaborative. I'm teaching things at times to the people I support. They're also teaching me about them so that what we do together, we're working in a session and then they are taking things they learn or about themselves, or even with added information of the intervention we do outside, and then practicing it. We call those like experiments. I mean, it's really just trying something new. And that, if it does work in that situation, or the next time you experience that situation, like boundaries. Like I do boundaries groups like every week at my job. Like people, if they ever see this, are like, "Oh my god, yeah, that boundaries group. Why do you do that every week?" And it's because healthy boundaries are hard. Okay, they can shift. So I just want to commend you for recognizing in yourself your trigger, setting an appropriate boundary in that moment, and then also recognizing that you have a space to use support, which is your friend, and even um, even being in a space like this talking about your situation. So just want to kind of just commend you for that.
And so, Galliano, how has it made you feel as you have been asked multiple times to go to this reunion, that you've said multiple times you do not want to go? How has that made you feel that, these people asking you over and over again are not listening to you?
Well, it it made me feel super anxious because I have anxiety disorder. You know, I don't like it when people say, "Hey, you want to do this? You want to do that?" I said, "No, no, no, thanks." When I say no thanks, they'd be like, they'd be like, "Come on, man, this is gonna be fun." I said, "No." Like it cannot just be just a reunion. It can be anything. When I say no, no and no and no, you know why? Because I don't want to be a part of somebody. Like I don't want people to look at me as an outsider. When again, I just want to keep my distance. But when people tell me stuff like, "Listen, man," and this and that. But when I reach my breaking point on that level, I really get angry and start using profanity. But I didn't mean to be like that. I'm just super anxious and going through it. I just do not want people to force me to do things I don't want to do. I just felt really really pressured. It's just it's just sad. Just not me. It can be anybody with mental health who felt pressured and
Right.
felt really sad.
That's right. Well, thank you, Galliano, for sharing this part with us. I will say to you, you're absolutely right. No means no. And that's on all genders. When it comes to women, no means no. And when it comes to men, no means no. When it comes to anyone who's a human being that's breathing, no means no. Okay. You don't want to go to your to
Reunion.
your right. If you don't want to go, you don't want to go, and you shouldn't feel like you have to be forced to go. So kudos to you on standing your ground, and not, you know, showing up to that reunion if you don't want to. I will also say to continue what you're doing. I know you have to take one day at a time, right? One day at a time. We all face pressures on a daily basis, all of us, whether it's within our jobs, our family, children, spouses, school, finances, the economy. We all face situations and scenarios that can get us down and easily put us into depression. But it's not about how we get into it, it's about how we get out of it. So I want to commend you for your 1 year anniversary of being, I don't like to say being depression free, but of cultivating and overcoming the methods of handling your depression.
How,
Okay, and keep doing what you're doing. Go ahead.
how about instead of depression free, how about 1 year overcoming depression?
Okay. Okay, that'll work. If you feel that you have gone through 1 year of overcoming your depression, then we will just give you a round of applause.
Thanks.
Okay, great,
Mhm.
great. Because it's the positivity that we want to extend to you. Be positive. keep your head up, keep your chin up, your chin out, and always think uh, um, optimistic, okay, of what the next day will bring, and what the future has in store for you. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Can
And
I add one word?
yes, I'm just going to say, and you know where to find me, how to get in touch with me, and you also know at any point in time you have anything you want to talk about, anything, how to reach me, and where to go. Go ahead, Donovan.
Recovery. Recovery is a word, and that's what we call it. We
Oh
can recover
yes,
from all moments. A lot of times, recovery is used when we think about like folks that are experiencing issues like with substances or more severe things like eater disorder, things of that nature. But it's more of like recovery. This is a recovery journey. It's not a race,
yeah,
it's a marathon. So you're a year in. Congratulations. And in marathons, people run really fast sometimes they can slow it down a little bit. So thinking about your recovery as a marathon, um, that you continue to collect things along the way, you know, and and
absolutely,
and I just wanted to add that in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donovan. I hope that these were some positive words of encouragement and motivation for you, Galliano. Okay, and we will keep up with your progress. The Esteban Hour will be following you throughout the upcoming months, and we'll have you back to share your good news with us as well. Okay,
I don't mind.
okay.
Good
Have
luck in
a
your
great-
journey.
Thanks. I
That's right.
appreciate it. I
Good
appreciate
luck.
the Esteban hour.
Thank you, and we appreciate you as well. Have a great weekend. Okay.
You too, man.
Okay. So, Donovan, Galliano is just one out of many, many, many Americans, men, and young people, right? That is suffering from a form of depression. And I think you had mentioned to me in one of our conversations that if we can just get through to one person, right? If we can just save one person with our words of wisdom, with your words, medically inclined, it's all worth it, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's all about just being present, in the space and allowing folks to have the opportunity to just be, be who they are. It's one of the reasons I chose as a male to be a male therapist, and being in a space for other men that don't necessarily feel comfortable like with emotions, because you know you share your personal journey, and it was helpful to know that when you
Right.
first met me, I was very like, oh, yeah, like I acted like everything was all right. I didn't talk about emotions. I grew up not even knowing what they were. I couldn't even cry until I actually started working in therapy. Like I literally just couldn't cry. Now I could just watch a movie and boom, I got tears coming down my eyes. Um, Getting back to more of the process of this whole thing, it's just really knowing that, you know, like not everyone has the access to healthcare, like to pay for it. It can be difficult. Insurance, crisis programs are out there. I always encourage people. 988 is our lifeline if you're ever feeling like you don't have anyone to talk to. But even religion, if that's your thing, use it. If going
Right.
out to the park and doing different things, being mindful, having a support team like you being a great friend to Galliano, and to Jeremy, these are the things that also help people get through, because when we feel alone in spaces is usually when we can do the most damage to ourselves and the most harm.
Absolutely.
And it's about harm reduction, really for the like the people that I work with, and the type of work that I do. Um, but at the same time, it's also not like everyone doesn't have the privilege to say, "Oh, I can go to therapy," right? Like, I mean, I know I grew up, we didn't have therapy. I didn't go to therapy, so we didn't have therapy in my neighborhood. I don't really think too many people from my old neighborhood actually do what I do, because it was like, what? My mom even looked at me like, "What do you want to do? You
Right.
should be a lawyer, doctor."
It was
I'm
kind
like,
of
okay,
something that was you were looked down upon, right? 20
yeah,
years ago, if you said that you were going to therapy, it was something you were looked down upon.
Yeah, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, we don't
Yeah,
talk about that.
yeah,
And that's the thing about it. We're releasing a bit of the stigma, and that's why for me it's important, one, to recognize if I have a thing about me, to really figure out, oh, okay, well, maybe I helped myself through this. That's why I joined this career, because I realized there was just so many things out there, even when I went through my own stuff, of just recognizing that I wasn't feeling okay. Like, I was
right,
just kind of suppressing my whole like emotional state of being, and then I would blow up. And I'm like, why am I so upset? Like,
right.
why do I feel like that? And it's more of like, when you take a chance on yourself, um, sometimes you need encouragement, and I think that's really the key. And
Not
we talked about
sometimes,
that too.
all the
We
time,
talked
all the
about
time. We all need encouragement, young or
yeah.
old, rich or
Mhm.
poor. We all can use encouragement. Now,
Yeah.
because we're a little bit pressed for time here. I wanted to,
Yeah.
because you had mentioned all different people that go through this. I wanted
Mhm.
to quickly read um something that was sent to me from a friend of mine from overseas, who's a little less fortunate than we are here in America, and goes through a lot in his country. Here's what he said to me. He said, actually, I get depressed by almost everything around me, from not being able to get a job, or not having proper electricity, or can afford proper electricity, not being able to afford at least 2 square meals a day, and most of all, being harassed and given attitude every day by other folks who do not have the honor and respect of the situation, your personal situation. He says here that he's able to manage it, or manage some of the things that make him get depressed, by going out and doing constructive things, by working, and trying to get paid what he can, just so that he can manage to put food in his mouth to eat. But in general, where he is, life over there is a living hell, and it takes a lot not to fall into depression. This is what he said, and it touched my heart when I read that, because I do know what he goes through in his country, and many other men and women, boys and girls, face the exact same circumstances that he's talking about. And we can't save everybody, but we can definitely bring it to the front of the line, and bring more attention to it. That again, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what culture or nationality, or how much money is in your bank account. We all struggle with a form of depression. Go ahead. What say you?
I mean, honestly, it's just going back to understanding that, there's something within your friend's story. It's just helping them push on. And that sometimes is finding those things, and getting out of that isolation is really the key. Um, and natural supports, as we call them, are really key. So whether it's going to a friend, neighbor, if you got to go to work every day, if it's going to a religious type of situation, not trying to push religion here, that's not my expertise. However, it is a form of support. And before there were formal people like myself in this world, a lot of people use that to kind of get through. Um, I do appreciate the opportunity to share this, and that's why people like me are starting to do more social media based engagements of helping people understand that this isn't a thing that just kind of feel like you're alone, because we
That's
are a
right.
big world of people experiencing all kinds of things. People are people. Even
That's right.
my doggy here has moments of depression. I know when he's depressed versus when he's excited. It's not even just a people thing. It can be even been
That's right.
feeding the other
That's right.
animals,
It could
right?
be it could be pet anxiety and pet depression as well. But since you just
Yeah.
brought up your dog, I wanted to meet your dog, and I wanted to introduce my dog child to you in the world as well. What is your dog child's name?
His name is Azul. It's the color
Azul.
blue in Spanish.
Azul.
Um,
Okay.
Azul, Azul. Yeah. He's very much like in his husky moment. He's a husky. Um, he's lame and he won't move. He's like circling a shoe that's on the floor like randomly because he likes to
He doesn't
like
want to say hi.
circle shoes. Azul, come, come. I'm gonna see if I can bring him up here. I have to bribe
All
him.
right.
Yeah, the minute he hears something open, he'll come. I got a little snack here. Come. Here he is. Come. Oh, look.
Hey,
Come
there's
on.
Azul.
There's an ear. So I'm gonna open this. Hope y'all can hear me. I'm opening this. This is like a fruit cup, like because he's like a little child. Here you go. He doesn't eat the fruit cup though. I do. Come on,
Bring
Azul.
bring the camera down a little bit.
Just to show a little bit of him. Let's see.
There's that
There he
beautiful
is.
dog. All right.
He's
And
like,
he's a
wow.
husky.
And he's
That's
like,
a
stop.
beautiful dog.
Yeah, he's like, stop tempting me here, right? Come on, Bob. Where's yours though? Maybe if you bring yours on, then
I
he'll be social.
Here we
Hey,
go. Now this is my baby, my youngest baby. Her name is Bambi. She is
hey,
a
Bambi.
golden doodle. Say hi.
Yes.
Say hi.
Hi. You
Say
see,
hi to
look,
everyone.
Azul. Look,
Say
say
hi.
hi to Bambi.
Say hi. Say hi.
Oh, she's so adorable.
She's a
They
golden
can also
doodle.
be the ones that help us get through times.
Yes.
So, emotional
Yes.
support animals are something people can explore, even if you feel
Absolutely.
like, you
Mhm.
know, getting through these moments of, just being in difficult spaces. I
Absolutely.
mean,
Pets
so
are
I just wanted
definite
to,
great therapeutic forms of therapy. Absolutely.
yeah.
Say hi. She's 4 months. Um,
Oh
um,
shit!
I've
Wow,
had her since
baby.
she's a baby. She's a baby. I've had her since she's about a month old. From a breeder. She is a full breed. And
Hmm.
she's a beautiful dog. Say hi. Say hi.
Say hi, Azul.
Say
Azul
hi
is
to
just
our son. Hi,
he's,
son.
I'm gonna try to get him to come again.
All
He's
right.
like looking at the fruit,
I'm
but
gonna
he
let you
doesn't
down
want
now
to.
so I can finish my show. Okay. I'm gonna come and play with you in a second. All right. All right. Okay. There we go. She's getting so heavy.
Wow, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
Yes, yes, and she's only half the size that she's supposed to be.
oh yeah,
Um, okay, this was a fabulous time with you. I enjoyed this. Thank you for joining us here on the
thank you
7
for
Hour
having me.
Podcast.
I
Um,
appreciate this so much.
you've always been a great friend. We've been friends. I'd say at least 25 plus years.
Oh Lord,
We've been friends,
they make it
and
sound like we've been around forever. I still think in my mind, I'm
I
like,
know,
I'm
I know. It
old, man.
pains me to say that. It definitely pains the ears.
But I'm grateful for that
Say it.
because a lot of people ain't make it to this time. So I'm very
Very
grateful.
true.
Very, very grateful.
Very,
It's,
very
it's so
true.
it's so so beautiful to have this space, and I really appreciate you for taking the time to be able to create a space for people just to have something. So I'm hoping that something today has touched somebody. Especially not just today. Like I mean, just looking at the other shows that you give, and it's such a warm opportunity for us to just connect. And whether you're talking about social events going on in the world, or, those world events, or even just talking about topics that people don't really say, oh, we're going to go to the kitchen table and talk about this, or the dining room table and talk about this. So this is just a way that I really appreciate you
Absolutely.
doing this
Absolutely.
for us. So thank you
You know that
for having me here.
you are welcome anytime back on the show. And it doesn't have to just be about therapy. It could be
Oh yeah,
about
I know.
anything. You are definitely welcome. Okay.
I'm a come on something completely not therapy related, but it won't be politics because that's the one thing that gives me a headache. It
That's
might be
okay.
some
Let's do
fun,
it.
something funny. Like I love funny things,
All
bringing joy
right.
to the world. Is
I'm
the
gonna
thing
hold
I
you to
love to
that.
do.
I'm gonna
All
hold
right,
you to. All right. Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll see you soon. So, overcoming depression. Overcoming depression is a journey that can vary from person to person, but here are some strategies that can help. You ready? Number one, seek professional help. Reach out to a mental health professional, such as a therapist or psychiatrist. They for sure can provide guidance, they can provide support, and evidence based treatments tailored to your specific needs. Number two, build a support system. Surround yourself with caring and understanding individuals who can offer great emotional support. This can include, but not be limited to, friends, family members, support groups, or even online communities. Number three, practice self care. Engage in activities that promote your well being, such as exercise, getting enough of sleep, which is something I need to work on, maintaining a balanced diet, also I need to work on, and practicing relaxation techniques like deep breathing and meditation. Again, I need to work on. Number four, challenge negative thoughts. Depression often involves negative thinking patterns. Learn to recognize those and challenge negative thoughts by replacing them with more positive and realistic ones. Cognitive behavioral therapy can be helpful in this regard. Don't forget that. Number five, set achievable goals. Break down larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps. Accomplishing these goals can provide a sense of achievement and boost your mood. Number six, engage in activities that you enjoy. Even if you don't feel like it, try to engage in those activities that you used to enjoy. Start with small and gradual increases in your involvement. Doing things you love can help improve your mood and provide a sense of purpose. Number seven, practice self compassion. Be kind to yourself and practice self compassion. Remember that overcoming depression, it takes time and effort. So be patient with yourself and celebrate small victories along the way. It's important to remember everyone's journey with depression is unique. And what works for one person may not necessarily work for another. If you are struggling with depression, don't hesitate to reach out for professional support because that might be the very thing that can and will save you. I'm your host, Esteban. This is the Esteban Hour podcast. And if you had a goal that you've accomplished or achieved tonight, don't forget to say to yourself, this is how you do it. Good night, everyone.